Hi everyone, my name is Ashley Colder. This is my productive and counterproductive behavior in the workplace assignment for Psych 516. So the first question that we were asked to answer was, how have recent historical events affected the course of research in organizational psychology? So I think the most important research topic within IO psychology thus far has really been utilizing technology within the workplace. An example of using technology within the workplace and how that has grown and developed so vastly and made everything more effective and efficient within the workplace would be recruiting. Now there are so many ways that recruiters seek new employees, resources for different organizations through different social networks or even through their own company. I think recruiting can really help to bring different talent and skill sets. It's actually an easier method to review someone's skills, their resume, and different information like that. So I think as technology continues to grow and expand, that recruiting is going to be a huge part of how organizations find their employees, especially on different networks and resources on the internet. The second question was describe the socialization process for graduate students in your program. So the socialization process for my degree program, it's actually very effective. So this is my second semester as a grad student, and I found that even from the ways that advisors starting out with just calling you after your application process, getting you all of the information that you need to be most successful within your courses, along with the way that the Canvas is set up so that you can easily get into contact with your professors. You know all of the course requirements ahead of time before going through each assignment. It's very easy to access, and I think that's a big part of the socialization process. Really giving the student the ability to learn more about the community at Liberty, along with the different courses and everything like that before they jump fully into the degree programs. And then it says, is the program successful in socializing newcomers and creating job embeddedness? And I would say it is very successful. Not all of my courses have been easy for me, but I've always had access to my professors, or if there was ever a question that I had or needed some help with, I found that I could also find the answers before even needing to seek another source to ask. Again, advisement, they are always sending out emails and giving phone calls, making sure they check in to see how everything's going. And being a student online, that's very important because a lot of kids aren't interacting with their classmates since it's virtual or online. The next question is, how can an organization reduce or prevent work-family conflict? So I think this question is a lot more simple than most companies, want to make out. And I think the first thing is really understanding how long employees are working. So I currently work in human resources, and I work for a government contractor, so we provide different resources to different, public and private entities. So with that being said, we don't directly see how long someone is working out on the contract until our, payroll goes to approve or, decline, whichever, their timesheets. A lot of people are going over hours, and it's not by maybe 10 hours even, it's an extended period that they're going over hours. Some people who, if our payroll is only 80 hours one month and then 104 hours the next, it's really hard for them to gauge how to get there. So there's been different steps we've taken so that we know how long employees are working. I think that's so important because even people that hop on just to check their emails at night, that's still working. Even though they're not charging for that time, that's still them working. That's still taking away from, their hobbies, their relationship with their spouse or with their children, being able to go to different events. So I think monitoring the time that employees are working is very important, and also putting a cap on that. So if supervisors are allowing the employee to work over and, they see the workload that an employee has and they just aren't doing what is best for that employee, then they have to be held responsible, and, there should be consequences for them as well. The next question is, imagine you have been asked to develop a performance assessment program for employee development. What techniques could you use to adequately evaluate performance as comprehensively as possible? So I'm going to use, again, my job as the example. So I think in having annual reviews is great to me. But I also think instead of it simply being the supervisor or boss giving that review, I think that there needs to be more like interaction with employees, talking about, where they feel like they've grown or where they feel like they're not growing. So many people are unhappy in their jobs because they feel like they haven't grown, or they feel like they're not learning anything new. It's just the same old work. So on those reviews, you're finding the same numbers each year. So maybe they're getting a 5 out of 5 on one section, and maybe they're still getting a 3 on another. And it's because the workload isn't changing, the type of work isn't changing. And employees, no matter where you are, they deserve that growth. So I think involving the employee more in the evaluations is really important, and also allowing the employees to set new goals for themselves. It's one thing for, your superior to set a goal for you, but you need to be comfortable with that, and it has to be enough for you. It has to be fulfilling. Your job should, have all of the rewards and less of the stressors. What are some possible common organizational constraints? How could they lead to counterproductive behaviors? So, I think for this one, I would say that one of the biggest constraints I've seen is not having like the necessary resources. So a lot of times I'll see this with training. The training is simply really basic. It gives basic knowledge, but it really doesn't give anything further than that. So it's not really giving the proper instructions on how to carry out tasks or how to do tasks more efficiently and effectively. Training is great, of course, but there needs to be follow-up, and you need to make sure that an employee is still going to continue to work on the different skills that have been, asked or they've reviewed. There has to be a lot of follow-up along with feedback from the employee. Like the feedback an employee gives will let you know if they're understanding that information or if, they're just trying to get through the training. That's a really big constraint. And I think it's counterproductive to, complete trainings, hours of trainings, or, charge time, working time to complete trainings. And then, you're not really utilizing those new different guidances and things like that. So I think that is very important to make sure that people understand training and it's taken more serious, because a lot of times people will just try to skim through or watch through as much as they can, and it's not always benefiting them nor the company itself. Another constraint would be, I think, just not having the proper guidance when it comes to giving that information that a company needs. So you could give them guidance, you could give them different tools and resources, but if you don't give them the proper instructions to use all of that, then it's kind of counterproductive, because it's like you're trying to make all the right steps, but the follow through is not going to be there. So again, definitely things to pay attention to when an organizational psychologist is implementing changes, trying to, better and help the success of the overall organization. And that was my last question. And so thank you for watching.